Next on MLR Weekly, Houston Director of Rugby and architect of the team's success, Heyneke Myer. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning with headlines and updates. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News with opinions and predictions. Picks of the week, courtesy of the Rugby Odds. The Rugby Network Play of the Week, and the best dang recap in all of rugby. Rugby Wrap-Up's MLR Weekly brought to you by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, New York City, the world's best rugby pub. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. And welcome to MLR Weekly as presented by Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy in New York City. Thank you for joining us. We have a special show this week, including Heyneke Myer, the Director of Rugby and architect for the Houston SaberCats' success. We also have Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News, John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning. But before we get to any of that, we have the best dang recap in sports. In the stifling heat and soaking humidity of Louisiana, the second to last play of the match between Eastern Conference leaders New England and NOLA showed how difficult the ball was to handle. But the Gold handled it well and used an explosive first half to withstand the rising Mercury, a red card, and a reigning champion rally to gain their most important win to date. Indeed, not only will the Big Easy Bunch trademark host its first playoff game, but they have a full court at the buzzer shot chance to unseat the FJs atop the Eastern Conference. Final score, 27-17 NOLA. In Charlotte, North Carolina, or Caroline, which some of you annoyingly call it, the Anthem hoped to sing a winning tune versus Chicago. And Boston College hooker Connor Robinson scored first for the hometown fans. But the Hounds were sniffing for a better playoff seed, and Mac the Knife Jones cut the lead to 2 with a try before slicing the defense for a Luke White score. But the Charlottonians fought back to take a 59th minute lead, and that's when Dylan the Butcher Fawcett carried his cutlery onto the pitch to grind his way to 2 tries. Get it? Butcher, grind, meat? No? Anyway, final score, Chicago 38, Anthem 29. Down in the Sunshine State, Miami and D.C. were both facing must-win situations. The game and Old Glory unfurled in a fortuitous manner for the hometown Sharks as they used a Jason Robertson yellow card to sprint to a 10-0 lead. But keeping in games has been D.C.'s shtick the whole year, and their first half try kept them on life support, while their second try of the match, and the only one scored in the final 40 minutes, pushed them into the playoffs despite losing. Sharks prevail but don't do enough to stay, wait for it, afloat. Sharks afloat. Is this thing on? Anyway, final score, 17-12 Miami. Amidst the mountainous beauty of Harriman, Utah, the Proud Warriors and the Dogged Jackals engaged in the Who Can Score More Cup. And after 20 minutes, Dallas had a 24-5 lead. Utah's Mike Manson flipped the script, however, electrifying the excellent crowd with 4 tries as the fabulous fans witnessed 96 points via 8 tries from each team. I'll say that again so we have something under the highlights. 8 tries for each team. One must wonder what a healthy Warrior backline would have done this season. Final score, Utah 50, Dallas 46. At Starfire Stadium in Tukwila, Washington, a wounded Rugby LA took on the vaunted Seawolves at home. But the nicknameless Southern Cal side came to play and were but 5 points down in the second half when they got nailed with a penalty try. Even so, Seattle nervously clung to a 5-point lead in the 72nd minute before scoring the try that allowed Rookie and Tony Ridnell to breathe easier. Then LA Semi Kunatani, who had 214 meters rushing and a try, got a yellow, and Cameron Orr made LA pay for Semi's sin. Seattle wins 29-12. At Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego, Western Conference rival Houston came to play the Legion in the Tidy Up the Playoff Seedings Bowl. And the home team were in control for much of the match, with Tien Luetz flashing his sensational skill set. San Diego's leads of 13-0 and 21-10 vanished, however, as Heyneke Myer's SaberCats had plenty of life in them, what with Cats having 9 lives and all, and got within 3 points, earning a penalty try and man advantage in the 70th minute. But the Legion put those pesky Cats to the saber, scoring shorthanded to ice the win. Final score, 37-24 San Diego. And we could all use a break, and why not take our recurring Rugby Mornings coffee break with John Fitzpatrick calling in from D.C., the Washington, D.C., that is, District of Columbia. John, welcome. What do you got?
Hey, Matt, how are you doing? I do really want to know. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm great. You're Mr. Wonderful always,
Great.
and I thank you very much for
That's
your
just
service
wonderful.
to rugby. Great. Hey, can we get on with the show?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Hey, let's jump right into the Eastern Conference playoff picture. Matt, a whole lot going on here, right? So the New England Free Jacks denied at least for one more week clinching the top spot in the Eastern Conference because, of course, they went down to New Orleans and Nola Gold beat them. Now, Nola Gold are just 2 points behind the New England Free Jacks. We all know the New England Free Jacks host Anthem RC in the final week of the regular season. New England just needs to get a win there. Now, Matt, Nola Gold in Week 18, they go on the road to play currently 4-seed OGDC, who could overtake the 3rd spot from the Chicago Hounds, who play the Miami Sharks on Saturday. So, Matt, a lot left to play for in the Eastern Conference in Week 18. What do you make of all this?
There is a lot to play for until the end of the New England game. And then things can dramatically change for NOLA, for instance, because then NOLA, if they are not going to have a shot at winning the division crown, they've already locked second place. So maybe players come out of the game and the philosophy of that match changes for them. Whereas for Old Glory and Chicago, it's still in both of their interests to win those matches respectively. You know, for the one time, you know, I know that none of us are ever happy about anything, but for one time, I would have scheduled all 3 of these matches at the same time so you get that full scoreboard watching effect. Next.
Hey, I did want to talk about the Miami Sharks here for a second, right? So they did beat Old Glory DC in Week 17, but because Old Glory kept it to under 7 points, Old Glory got that losing bonus point, that one table point, clinched a playoff spot for them in the Eastern Conference, the final playoff spot, right? Denying Miami a postseason berth in their inaugural campaign. But Matt, look at Miami here. They're 6-9. They could beat Chicago on Saturday, but they have wins over every other Eastern Conference opponent. Matt, how would you rate their first season in MLR?
It was erratic, but typically erratic for a new franchise. There are a couple of bounces of the ball away from having an over 500 record, and they are, you know, are they not the best of the franchises, new franchises in a league of double-digit teams? You know, I know that there was New York in their first year, went to the playoffs, but how many teams were in the league then? So, you know, it's worth noting that they got 6 wins. They still have a chance at a 7th, and you never know with this team. And that's the thing about them. They can beat anybody on any given night, but they often beat themselves. Next.
Well, Matt, out west, a shootout, go figure, between the Utah Warriors and the Dallas Jackals resulted in 96 total points, with 20 of them coming from Michael Manson. That's right, he had 4 tries. With the loss now, the Jackals are the 4th seed. They'll travel down to Houston to take on the SaberCats, who lost to San Diego on Sunday. Matt, I hear later in the episode you're going to have a Heineken with Heyneke Myer, or you're going to have an Oscar Mayer wiener with Heyneke Myer?
That is so immature and unprofessional of you as a journalist to suggest that I would have a hot dog as a vegan. Of course, it's going to be the Heineken. Next.
Man, I wanted to close out on one thing, just an extra reason for fans to attend Old Glory DC's home match against the Nola Gold. But they can hear your lovely voice over the PA system. Matt, are you going to be the PA announcer for that game?
I am, and I'm contemplating locking myself in the booth with a bottle of Jack Daniels, a.k.a. Brockheimer, and having some fun. But I don't think Paul Sheehy and Chris Dunleavy will appreciate that. They might, so I'll probably play it a little bit straighter, but we're going to have some fun. John, with the black car, your lights are on. That's going to be one of the biggies. We're going to do that a lot. All right?
It's easy at Sheehy.
Hope it's easy. I hope to see all of you out there in D.C. for this last home game before the playoffs in the Washington area. Bring the kiddies, bring the wife. It's guaranteed to be the time of your life. Next.
Matt, that's all I got. I'm excited. I might even be there and listening in just to hear your voice, of course.
Maybe might after that sales pitch. You dirty name. You are a dirty, dirty name. On that note, I want to thank Mr. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning. We'll be right back with Heyneke Myer after this.
Digs like a demented mole there.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now. And we are back, and we have the pleasure of welcoming back to MLR Weekly Heyneke Myer of the Houston SaberCats, the Director of Rugby. Heyneke, welcome back. It's great to see you.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I can't believe it. I think it's been 2 years just before I got to SaberCats. It just shows you time flies and you have to enjoy the journey. So, yeah, it's an honor being back on your show.
And you look tan, you look fit, you look relaxed. You look like the guy whose team is really kicking some butt out there in Major League Rugby. But before we get into that, I got to tell people about your resume because it's world class, to say the least. Before you came to Houston, folks, he was the head coach of the Springboks in the 2015 World Cup. He's also coached with the Stormers and the Bulls, who lost last week in the URC final in a heartbreaker versus Glasgow and Pretoria. He also with Stade Francais, who were narrowly beaten by Bordeaux in the top 14 semifinals, Leicester Tigers, Asia Pacific Dragons, University of Pretoria. Did I miss anything?
No, it's more or less the whole thing. And then now in Houston, I say it was an unbelievable journey, and to be in America, I think it's so much talent here. This country's got so much going for them, and I truly wish that it's just an honor to be part of this. And I truly believe Americans will just go from strength to strength. Unbelievable rugby players here, unbelievable people I've met, and it's been a great journey to be here. Well,
the job that you've done down there is remarkable. You inherited a great stadium, a great venue, good ownership, but the team on the field was less than, spectacular. And you have turned that around, and now you're leaving us.
Yeah, it's not finalized. At this stage, it's the end of my contract. So, I've enjoyed the journey, but I'm not sure what's the next step for me. But I really love it here, and I think it's the future of rugby here. There's so much to learn and so much to give back, and that's why I coach.
Going back 2 years, what would you say that was the biggest change that you made for the positive?
The biggest thing that we've done, I think, is the culture. We have an unbelievable culture. Players play for each other. They sacrifice for the team. The team comes first. I think I said it in my first podcast with you as well. That's a culture I want to install. And we don't have a lot of superstars. I said a lot of other teams, and not a criticism, has gone and buy international players, and they're also great. They help the youngsters. I've always believed get youngsters in. They grow with the team. They grow with the culture, and they're just going to get better and better. So I think culture-wise, for me, that's the biggest thing we put in place. The players are very proud to play for the SaberCats. They're very proud to play for the spectators and make them proud. And they go out there and put their bodies on the line week in and week out.
How has the quality increased in your eyes in the time you've been here?
It's not just a PR exercise. I think the league has really improved. If you look at the first year, we came from bottom of the log and made the playoffs, but the defenses wasn't as good. If you look at this year, just we've been a little bit fortunate with a few games we won by a point, but there's no team dominating. Any team can beat any team on the day. Every team we've played was a hell of a tough game. Even the anthem, the second half they won. So I think the defenses is much better, the set piece is much better, and the fitness levels is much better. And the fact that there's some quality coaches here as well, some really good coaches from all over the world helping here, and some really good players. I think maybe the first year, was a lot of guys just ending their career and just want to come to America to experience that, and maybe just a little bit of lethargic. I think now most of the guys that comes here, either want to play for America or they want to really, really do well. So I can see the games is much tougher. The quality of play is much tougher. So it's really, really, really improved. The league is much, much better, especially defenses, more difficult to score. And, just the fitness levels is much better. So I'm proud where the league is going. I'm really proud of being part of it.
Okay. All right. Let's change gears completely. How do you handle the weather? Because it's really hot.
Yeah, I don't people realize how hard it is. On the one hand, our fitness level is not where I want it to be, but if we go out there twice and warm up twice, it's just unbearable for the players. It is tough to play in these conditions, but we just have to get on with it and be mentally tough and play to our strengths.
What's your coaching style? Say your team is trailing by 10 points at home at halftime. Do you go into the locker room and start smashing water coolers, or what's your approach?
I think I always say this to my young coaches: coaching, is it a science or it's an art? I think it's both. I've seen when I coach South Africa, and I've got a degree in psychology and a little bit of sports psychology, so that helped me a lot in the past. That's just experience.
And yet you come on this show.
So there's no fixed rule. I think if you say you coach South Africa and they play a team that you should win and they're very experienced, then you can come in and you can really, really blast them, and they will respond and come back. If you have a young team that's huge under pressure and now you put more pressure on them, then they're going to break. So I think that the art of a coach is when to adapt pressure and when to take the pressure off. Sometimes you have to put the pressure off, take a deep breath, regroup, and then go back and execute. And I think that is the art of coaching. You need to understand where you are. You need to understand which buttons to push at the right time. So I don't think there's a fixed matter. I think the one thing that doesn't work is just by screaming. You have to give them clear instructions. So I'm quite close to my team, and I really want them just to put their bodies on the line, playing for each other. If it's a lack of effort, then I'll be hard on them. If it's just like making mistakes, then they just have to fix that. So I think it's a feeling. I've been probably in the cloakroom, and that's why I'm so grey. Probably at 200
coaches and worry that doesn't happen, right?
No, I get really, really stuck in.
At least you got your hair. Look at me.
So I think it's an art what to tell the players, and the more experience obviously can be hard on players, but you can also have seen coaches where they really under pressure go to hard on the guys, and then you just break them. Give
me your opinion on the upcoming Box versus Ireland series.
Listen, one thing that Box team, again, I don't want to take any credit. I picked 10 of those starters when they were 20, 21 years old. Unbelievable youngsters, and I always say we lost against the best New Zealand side ever with 2 points. I always say that team's going to be very, 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 very good going on. And now those youngsters all have like 100 test matches, so they're very experienced. They know how to win, especially with the new rules really helping them. Nowadays, you have to scrum well, you have to maul well, and those guys scrum well, maul well, and they've got a good defense. So, but the Ireland team, I think without Sexton, they're still a good team, but they miss Sexton and they don't have that much depth. So I think it will be a very, very tight test match or test series. I think obviously being at home, South Africa, it's in their favor, but that Ireland team, a few of their assistant coaches was my assistants at Leicester, very good coaches at Stade Francais, very good, well-coached team. On the day, they can beat any team, but I think it's going to be a great, great test series.
All right, final question. And again, it's just right in itself. Texas barbecue or South African bride?
Sure, that's a difficult one.
That's from Steve Lewis, the former general manager of the Rugby New York team.
Yeah. I must say I enjoyed the Texas barbecue. I must say I really enjoyed the steaks are brilliant here. I really enjoyed the barbecue with all the different meat. It's a difficult one. I'll probably go for Texas barbecue at this stage.
All right. Well, Heyneke Myer, thank you for coming on MLR Weekly.
Thank you so much. I really enjoy it. Thanks.
And now your Major League Rugby Play of the Week brought to you by the Rugby Network. In an offensive track meet at Zions Bank Stadium, Utah's Joe Mano proved he is a true warrior with a textbook tackle from a set position that sent the much larger Ben Fry, who was at full pace, into orbit. Down in Miami, Old Glory DC's tackling machine, Corey Daniel, continues to shine, but now he's flashing offensive skills. His burst into the open and push to the try-zone spurred Old Glory DC to their second consecutive playoff berth. In sunny Southern California, San Diego's Tien Lewitz continues to serve notice re his top-notch skills and treated the Legion fans to this stellar chip and chase try. And the Rugby Network Play of the Week is Corey Daniels' season-altering try on the road, helping Old Glory earn an Eastern Conference playoff berth. Here's your TRO, the Rugby Odds MLR Picks of the Week via WWE Hall of Famer turned rugby advocate and excellent handicapper John Bradshaw Layfield and King Gift A. Bailu, the Yogi Berra of rugby.
I got DC. I think DC ends up winning this game. And the main reason is because I think New England runs Anthem off the field. And when they do, I think Nala has lost their motivation. DC is very motivated. They're at home. It's going to be a good crowd. I think DC ends up winning the game.
Yeah, look, I think for Chicago, again, they already know that they're in the playoffs. So for them, it's just a factor of, can we get seeding on this one? Knowing whatever happened with the New England game and simultaneously having the DC game, they're going to be motivated to at least eke out the win. I think even more so Miami is deflated.
Hey, be sure to check out the critically acclaimed The Rugby Odds. It's a sports entertainment show that also has insightful opinions and exclusive highlights. Plus, you needn't know anything about anything to enjoy it.
I wouldn't like to be at the bottom of that.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? Fans, you can tune into every match live on Flow Rugby. How do we know that? Because we're on there all the time. And we're back, and once again we have the pleasure of welcoming in Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News. Bryan, how are you?
Doing all right, just rocking out here in New Orleans with the Gold Faithful after they knocked off my Free Jacks. What a week of Major League Rugby. Kind of resembled Keystone Cups. A lot of a few of those games this weekend.
All right, Bryan, we're running way behind, so we have to go right to your predictions with the spreads, courtesy of the Rugby Odds. Utah hosting RFC LA, Utah -6.
I got to go with Utah to end the season on a high in this one. And for LA, it's just, run some guys out, see what they're doing, and hope you could just get through 80 minutes of rugby.
New England, who rested quite a few players to go down and play the number 2 team in their division and the team competing for the crown, -17 versus the Anthem in Quincy.
Yeah, geez, maybe the kryptonite for New England is heading anywhere down to the swamp. As soon as it starts to get humid, it's a real problem for them. They won't be happy with that result against NOLA at all, just like they were disappointed with Miami. So, yeah, I think they'll put up some points on Anthem. The only thing I'd like to say about Anthem is please just give somebody American qualified a run at number 10 for a few minutes. That would be nice.
Yeah. How about Shane Barry? Bryan, down in the nation's capital, D.C., hosting NOLA in a meaningful game as well. And NOLA, road favorites -6. But the outcome of the New England game should be clear to both teams when they kick off.
Yeah, so NOLA, realistically doesn't have a lot to play for. They've got their home quarterfinal. They can't. Well, I mean, if there's some crazy thing that goes on, maybe New England falls. But I think I think we know what's going to happen there. So the game is really more important to DC if they can jump over Chicago and get that higher seeding in this one. So there's a lot on the line. I think they looked pretty flat this past weekend. They want to improve on that now. Does Jamison Fatanana Schultz play in this one? Looked like he picked up a knock in that one, so I think maybe not. I like NOLA. They're on a roll right now. Even though they're on the road, they look confident. They, again, another team building towards the playoffs. So I'm here in New Orleans. I think it would be a mistake if I picked anybody else. We'll go with the goal.
Chicago in a meaningful game hosting Miami. Chicago favorites by 7.
Chicago, I think, are on a little bit of a roll there. They want to keep that winning streak going heading into the postseason. Miami just didn't show enough for me. They got the win, but I think they kind of missed. They kind of coasted the rest of the game after they had that lead against Old Glory, and they just missed a bit of that killer instinct. And there's nothing left to play for them now. So I think Chicago takes this one.
Houston at home, -6 with nothing to play for against Dallas, but this is a Texas derby.
I think Houston wins this one either way. And to be honest, I think Houston probably puts out a decent side because they don't have many bad players on that roster. I think Houston wins this one. I think it'll be a good game though, but guys won't be holding back or anything. But I think the real Texas Cup is up. In 3 weeks' time.
And here's another one that you could say is meaningless, but San Diego hosting Seattle. San Diego -3 as the home favorite over Seattle. But this is a rivalry.
It is, but again, I mean, Matt Gitto, you're not going to risk him after he took that knock, to the ribs in that last game. So I don't know what his status is, but you're certainly not going to throw him out for a meaningless game like this. Seattle, do you throw JP Smith out knowing he's got to play for the Eagles for the next couple weeks? I don't think so. Maybe you put him on the bench, if you absolutely need him, but Ryan Reese will be playing 9. So again, I think this is a matter of looking up and down your roster. You want to be competitive, but you're not going to risk anything in this game. So fun game. I'll take, I'll take San Diego to win this one just because coin toss decision.
All right. Final thought before we let you go.
Shout outs to the Atlantic Privateers who won the Coast to Coast Cup up here in freezing cold Canada. I think there's actually a couple guys from that team who could be in MLR pretty soon, maybe even next season. So, we've got a nice spot right in downtown Halifax that would be perfect for a team if Mark Cuban could just send us a few million to pay for some undersoil heating and some startup costs. Team in Halifax, let's do it.
We'll both tweet them or X them, whatever you call it.
See what we can do. Maybe
All
go on there. What is it? The Shark Tank and give us a little pitch.
Exactly. All right. On that note, I want to thank Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News, Mr. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning, Heyneke Myer, the Director of Rugby of the Houston SaberCats, and thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other shows, including the critically acclaimed The Rugby Odds. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, sign up for our weekly newsletter, tell your friends about us, and please join the American Red Cross Blood donor team.